Before this video starts, if you enjoyed this video, there are many more like it on the channel with many more to come in the future, so please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers by the end of the year, so I really appreciate it. Also, there is a new episode of the Hoopscast out now. I mentioned it in the last video, but it wasn't actually out on YouTube. It's also on Spotify and Anchor, but me and Mojo talked about some NBA Would You Rathers with a guest, and also, my last video, the Larry Bird video, did not do too well. It was about a loophole that helped the Celtics draft him. I really could not find a good title for it, but I think it's a good video, so if you have not checked that one out, I'd appreciate it if you did. But today we're talking about something that has been requested for me to talk about for a while, knowing how much I hate the Bulls front office, and that's because there was a report put out by Woj a few days ago that completely made my day, because it was a report about how the Bulls would be looking for a new general manager, which is a report that we have gotten before, but this time around there is a very key phrase used in that tweet because it said that they were looking to hire a top executive with full authority on basketball decisions. That is a very important distinction. Originally, it just said that they wanted to hire another executive who would essentially be John Paxson's bitch. However, now, Paxson will be just in an advisory role, which means he will be the bitch, which is just phenomenal. For those out of the know, Paxson has basically been the main dude for the Bulls front office for a very long time, and yes, that means he is the guy who hired Jim Boylen, and also the guy who has yet to fire Jim Boylen. So when there was a report that the Bulls would try and hire some executive that would essentially be reporting to Paxson, with there already being reports that the Bulls were hoping that that new executive would be keeping an open mind about keeping Jim Boylen, that did not give us anything to be excited about. But with this report, with the new GM having full authority on basketball decisions, Boylen is essentially gone as long as whoever they hire is at minimum 1% competent. I have defended John Paxson in the past because trade-wise, draft-wise, and free agency-wise, I think he has done a very good job in the past few years. However, hiring someone as stupid as Jim Boylen is already a borderline fireable offense, extending him is definitely a fireable offense, and not firing him at maximum 10 games into this year is certainly a fireable offense. Now, he is just being demoted, which kind of sucks because I just wish he had no role at all, but I'm going to take him not being the guy who makes the final calls. So as long as the Bulls do commit to this and sign a new general manager, Jim Boylen is gone. Which, yes, that does feel borderline orgasmic to say out loud. The reason that's such a big deal, if you're unaware, is that at least to me and to most Bulls fans, I legitimately blame 80% of the problems with this Bulls team, relative to how good they should have been, on Jim Boylen being a fucking moron. And by relative, I mean I expected this team to be a 7th or 8th seed, so I didn't expect them to be a perfect team by any means. But the reason they were not on that level, I say, is 80% on Jim Boylen. As for some of the candidates, the two biggest ones are the GMs of the Raptors and Heat. The GM of the Indiana Pacers pulled out. My concern with those two guys is that from everything that we have been led to believe, the presidents of basketball operations of those teams have had more to do with the moves they've made than the GMs themselves. Those presidents obviously being Pat Riley for the Heat and Masai Ujiri for the Raptors, but maybe working with them has rubbed off on them, or they've actually had more to do with the moves they've made than they've just been given credit for, because just bowing in awe of Masai Ujiri and Pat Riley is a pretty common thing to do now. But overall, a new executive means good things for this team because it means that Jim Boylen is gone, possibly means that Kenny Atkinson is the new coach, which means good things for the future. When I was seeing conversation about this on Twitter and what the Bulls could be doing down the line, I saw a lot of people mentioning something that I didn't say much about in my Bulls video from like 2 to 3 weeks ago. ago, and that is free agency in 2021, which, if you are unaware, is completely fucking stacked. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert, Kawhi, Paul George, Victor Oladipo, and Drew Holiday will all be free agents, with some star, not quite star players like JJ Redick, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis Schroeder, Kelly Oubre, and Spencer Dinwiddie, as well as some good role players. And assuming the Bulls don't take any extra salary on that would interfere, they will have quite a substantial amount of cap room. Zach LaVine has $20 million on the books. The Bulls have to pick up Kobe White and Wendell's team options, which as a total is a little bit below $13 million. And they might also pick up Chandler Hutchinson's $4 million option. It depends how he performs next year. After coming back from injury this season, he started to play very well before the Roni just ended the season. $1.7 million of Daniel Gafford is on the books, which is perfectly fine. That's a very cheap and good backup center. And then after that, only $6 million of the total of Thomas Satoransky and Thad Young's contract is guaranteed. So in total, that's like $45 million or so on the books, assuming that they pick up Hutchinson's option, which I have to guess they will just because he's a decent backup wing, which with the cap as it was projected will be equal to $70 million in cap space, which is basically 2 maximum contracts. However, the NBA shutting down this season will affect the cap, but it also should affect how much players are able or at least expecting to get in free agency. Also, they do have to re-sign Lauri Markkanen. They could do a sign-and-trade if they didn't want to go into the luxury tax, or even if they weren't allowed to bring him back, depending on what they bring in. They do have his bird rights, or the restricted free agency rights, obviously, so they could just bring him in after signing other guys. Now, I am not saying anything will happen in this offseason, but with a GM who knows what he's doing, there is room for there to make something happen here. Anthony Davis did make some comments about Chicago in the past. I don't think that's going to happen, but if the Bulls are surprisingly good next year, I don't know, maybe. I certainly hope whoever they sign does not pull a New York Knicks and just puts all of their eggs into the free agency basket, but it's something to keep an eye on for sure. But generally speaking, competent GM plus lots of cap space plus possibly the most stacked free agency class of all time, it tends to equal good things. As for some moves they could make more in the present, I think the CP3 trade idea was a little unrealistic. Yes, I think the Bulls do have the assets to make it happen, and in their position I would make that move. But I doubt the Bulls actually do make that move. More so, I'm looking for some internal improvement. A good coach, as I've said a million times now, would do wonders. A point guard who can defend and play make does wonders as well. I really like Fred VanVleet. I don't know if I'd sign him with the free agency potential. Same thing goes for the Chris Paul thing. But I also don't want the Bulls to not sign him because of 2021's free agency, so it's a weird balance to strike. I think he would fit very well next to Zach LaVine, and I'd be cool paying him like 18 to 20 million a year. There's a good chance the Knicks offer him more, but maybe if he cares a little bit more about winning, he'll sign with the Bulls. I don't know, it depends. Also, Goran Dragic is an option that the Bulls have come out and said they're interested in. He is a cool third guy to get. I still very much believe that Kobe White should be coming off of the bench. I think that's what's best for him and best for this team. I'm kind of annoyed that 10 games of playing really good have made all of the Bulls fans basically want to hand the keys to the castle to Kobe White. I find that quite ridiculous. But as a concluding statement, having a great general manager or even just a below average general manager would make a huge deal for this team. Signing just an okay coach would be a huge deal for this team, and I'm just praying that these reports end up being true and the Bulls move on from John Paxson, and I can finally have a reason to be even semi-hopeful for the future. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Bulls front office changes. Fuck John Paxson, fuck Jim Boylen, and yeah, That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this. Check out the latest episode of the Hoopscast and my bird video, and cue the outro music. Oh wait, also I'm gonna be streaming in a few hours after this video goes up. Just forgot to say that earlier. Yeah, bye.